Hey everyone, it's Denise Donahue, the Mortgage Nerd, and this is your July Mortgage Nerd News Update. We're going to be talking about interest rates updates and housing market updates. So stay tuned. This is usually a lengthy video, but it'll be worth it because we've got some juicy stuff. So the first thing I want to jump into is, of course, what the heck is going on with interest rates. You guys know this is one of my favorite charts that I show you guys, and it's just to keep perspective. This shows you in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and so on, what the average interest rate is. And what all I want to share with you guys is in the 2010 decade, which was 2010 to 2019, we all know that the government was keeping interest rates artificially low. They were doing that to rebound the housing market after the housing crash. And so this is why in the last 10 years, we saw rates lower than any other decade. And rates have increased. Right now, they're hovering right in between 5% and 5.5%. We've seen a little bit of a rebound, which we'll get into. But where will we land? We don't know. Is this the new norm? Is 5% back to where we were? I mean, even 5% is lower than what we've seen. The time will come and we will find out. But if you are holding your breath or sitting on the sidelines, hoping that we see rates back in the 2s and 3s, we might not ever get back there again. So be careful, because if we could all time the market, we would all be millionaires and we wouldn't be working. But here's what's been going on with rates in the last few months. So this is a look back over the last quarter. Here's where we are today, which is July 12th. Here's the last 3 months. And you can see that this is what you're looking at the bond market. If you're new to this, when the price of bonds are down, interest rates are up. So if we expand this out over a 2-year time period, here's where the bond prices were up here. They're a lot higher on this chart. This is when interest rates were in the high 2s and low 3s. We saw a little bit of a dip during COVID last year, and that's when rates got back above 3% and when we were panicking. Little did we know that at the start of January of this year, this is what we would see. We see a pretty hefty nosedive. Literally, rates are double where they were January of this year. But if we look back at where we are now, we have seen a bit of a recovery, the first time we've seen it all year, since June 13th. So here's where we are today. We're about where rates were just at the mid-June price point. Now, what you're going to see on headlines is rates have dropped. Well, if you were looking at rates around this time period, then rates haven't dropped. Rates are right where they were. If you were looking at rates between June 13th and I would say maybe July 1st, then yeah, we've seen some improvement in the rates. So the headlines, they drive me crazy. Sometimes they're fear-based and sometimes they're not. But you have to be mindful. You guys know I post interest rate updates every single week to the website. But this just gives you perspective. We're starting to see a little bit of a recovery. But then on July 5th, which was Tuesday after the holiday, we did see the rates go back up a little bit. So it's a roller coaster. You can't time it. This has been the trend since, like we talked about, since the housing crash. So rates are up here. This is as of 6/23. This is definitely more current as of July 12th. So just keep in mind those headlines are there to either spark emotion. This movement right here is really not much, but just know that we shop over 30 banks, one credit pool. We shop over 30 banks. We show you the rate board. We show you behind the curtain. You will get the best deal. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm really excited to share with you guys some housing market updates. And if you're a realtor tuning into this, you are going to want to screenshot some of these slides, and mainly for your sellers. So take a look at this. First and foremost, they're always going to do a side-by-side comparison or year-over-year comparison from 2021 to 2022 about home sales. And in the headlines, it's going to say home sales are falling. What that means is the number of homes that are selling are falling. And that's true. But what's the baseline? The baseline is 2021, which was at record lows. So if we take a look at this, blue was 2021, red is 2022. We are down. February we were up. We are down a little bit, but up against when rates were at the cheapest of all. Don't fall for those headlines. We should be down compared to our highest best year. Here's a chart, though, that I want to share with you guys. And if you're a seller, you're definitely going to want to take a look at this, really a seller or a buyer. So these are home prices showing you that the average home price right now in America, so not just DFW or Colorado, or this is as of single family homes in all of America, was $453,800. You can see this by this dark red line. And then we compare that to the newest listings hitting the market. And right now, what this graph is telling us, because you guys know I'm big on data over drama, these new listings are opening up much lower. And so what that means is it doesn't mean that your house today is worth less. It just means that because the market is shifting and because buyer demand is down, which we'll get into in just a bit, there are more homes on the inventory, that maybe listing your house at 16% appreciation, you're not going to be able to get 16. Maybe you're going to be able to get 9. And so realtors right now in this moment of time, it's really tough to figure out what to list your house out because houses aren't selling, in a weekend anymore. We'll get more into that in just a second. But this is very important for sellers who are going to list their house. You might be thinking, no, I want to list my house more because last month my neighbor listed it at this, but you really have to lean on your real estate agent. They are in tune with this data. They are in tune with what buyers are paying. And what's going on today is very different than what we saw even just a month ago. This stuff is moving freaky fast. Next slide. This is also where we start to see some seller shock. And we're going to see more price reductions. Here's the thing about price reductions. In a normal market, usually 1/3 of home sales, so 33% of home sales, we see a price reduction before it gets sold. That's very normal. In a crazy hot market, we might see 25% of price reductions before it gets to the closing table. The last 2 springs, we saw price reductions at historic lows. And obviously we had little inventory, high demand, and like insanely cheap interest rates. So we didn't see as many price reductions, but here's what is very important if you're a seller right now and you're looking at this chart. We are starting, if you look in the fall, so this is January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. When people start going back to school and we start heading into the fall, look what this yellow line, blue line, this 2017, 2018, 2019, we always start to see this line kind of come down. We always see it in the fall. We always see price reductions more so in the fall because usually you want to get into your house before the fall time period. But what this dark red line is showing us is that we're seeing these price reductions happen a lot sooner than September. We're starting to see it right here, and it's a record pace. See, it says 29% of active listings have reduced price. Now, why is that? Is that because your agent is getting it wrong? No, it's because we are in that sweet spot right now where we are trying to figure out what buyers are willing to pay due to home prices increasing so much over the last 24 months and interest rates going up over 2 points in this entire year. And so it's a difficult time period for realtors to list the house because we need the next 30 days to dictate what the new norm is going to be. So you might be experiencing what I call seller shock, where if you are just now starting to have conversations with a real estate agent and you are starting to prepare your house to sell and you start thinking about listing maybe in this August or September, you might be thinking that you're going to get, X amount over list price because your neighbor did a couple months ago. But again, that song has sung, that ship has sailed. So this is really good data. It's really helpful to keep yourself and even sellers grounded in what's been going on. And I think it's one of those that you should screenshot and keep in your phone so that we can show, the story tells us the whole thing. In fact, if you look down at this next one, so this is, there's actually 2 other things that I want to show you guys as a seller. And this is good news for a buyer, not so good news for a seller. But the immediate sales, where you would list your house on a Thursday, get multiple offers, over 100 people in your open house over the weekend, and your house would be sold by Sunday night. That has dramatically decreased, like literally over the last 2 weeks. We have seen it slow down by 19.7%. So here's the good and the bad news. If you're a seller, you might not sell your house in a weekend. If there's some TLC that needs to be done with your home, or, now that there's more competition and more sellers on the market, be prepared that your house might not sell in a weekend. And then if you're a buyer, this is great news. What this data is telling buyers is that you are no longer having to feel that high stress or high anxiety to make a decision right away, or that you're going to have to spend X amount over the list price. So if you were a buyer that was sitting on the sidelines thinking you were going to wait till it is cooling off, it's mid-July, it's cooled off, get back on the field and let's go, because rates have come down a little bit. We don't know where they're going to go in the fall, but we're starting to see a more balanced market. So everybody that's complaining about these high interest rates, stop complaining, unless you're a seller, of course, but stop complaining, because it's creating a balanced market, which is what we all want to see. Now, the other shock, sorry, sellers, is we are starting to see what are called relistings happen more sooner than usual. Relistings means when you get an offer on your home and then let's say the buyer cancels it, and so you have to relist your home on the market. We are starting to see more of that. And so this is a good chart that we keep an eye on. It's a good expectations if you're an agent watching this to prepare your sellers for. You know, nobody likes to sell their house, get it under contract, and then the buyer back out. You lose some momentum in that, but that at the end of the day, it happens, and it's happening more right now, and it will continue to happen more in the fall. So agents, I would challenge you to think through, what strategies do you have to prepare your seller for that? What strategies do you have to make sure that you're utilizing our loan program, which is the buy now, sell after? It definitely prevents some of that stress and anxiety for the seller to have to time it all. No, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's not like those third-party things. And how are you setting proper expectations with your sellers? Because they need to understand that it's not uncommon for a contract to fall through. So let's talk a little bit now about inventory. Inventory is growing. So this is a chart that measures single family homes. And what we can see here is that the available inventory is up 6.2%. That means that more and more sellers are listing. So if you've been on limbo about whether or not you're going to sell your house, I would get in there sooner than later. Make sure you talk to your real estate agent, start having that strategy session. It's always, always, always so important to have a pre-listing strategy appointment. It doesn't matter if you're not planning to sell your house until next spring. You need somebody to get eyeballs on your home. They know how to make it look marketable to the masses, and that conversation can never be had too soon. Of course, if you need any recommendations in a listing agent, I'd be happy to help you guys and connect you with one. But this is good news. Their inventory is growing. That means more people are entering the market. And last but not least, the topic I wanted to go over is home buyer demand weakening? I do want to point out just a couple different charts. So the first one is we like to measure the demand of purchase applications with lenders. So the Mortgage Banker Association puts these numbers together. This is only on purchase applications. So people refinancing, that's not included in this chart. Refinances have gone completely down the drain. A lot of these mortgage lenders that are heavy in the refi business, they're struggling. You'll start to see headlines of layoffs. You'll start to see really aggressive snail mail to you to get you to refinance. Always consult with us before you fall for any of those letters, even if it looks like it's coming from us. There's fine print in there. Just please do not fall for it. If you're thinking about refinancing for whatever reason to tap into your equity or anything, let us take a look at it, because there might be other ways to save you some money. So what this does show us, though, is that if you look at this yellow line, this is the purchase applicants, the number is way down. So the number of people applying to buy a home is down. Another thing that we look at when measuring if demand's weakening is the pending home sales. And so far this year, those numbers have been down as well. So the combination of home prices going up so quick and rates going up has definitely cooled the market down, and it is showing that there are less buyers entering the market. Now, if you currently own a home and you've been thinking of selling and buying, maybe you want to sell because you want to tap into your equity and pay off some debt. There are other ways that you can do that without having to sell. But if you need to sell, I would challenge you to dig deep as to why. Are you relocating? Do you need a smaller house? Are you upsizing? If you're just selling because you're bored, again, it may not be the best time. But if you're thinking of buying because you are currently renting, let me show you some pretty fascinating numbers. Everyone's paying so close attention to these rates rising, but rent prices are increasing even faster than home prices. I just spoke to a client earlier today, and her rent was going up. She was shopping in the market at the beginning of this year, got super frustrated. She said she was borderline traumatized. Went to go renew her lease, and they're increasing her rent by $500 a month. So I wanted to show you this side-by-side comparison because, again, data over drama. If you're paying monthly rent right now of $25.30 and you bought a home for $550,000 and you financed $450,000, your monthly P&I payment or principal and interest payment would be $2,555. What does that decision mean? If you're player A and you decided, you know what, I'm going to hold off and I'm going to wait and time this market and I'm going to continue to rent. So player one, for all you video gamers, player one decided to rent. At the end of 10 years, they would have paid $303,000 in just rent, and that's assuming 0 rate increases between now and 10 years. Or player two said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and buy a house, even if it's not my dream house, even if the floor is ugly and the countertops are ugly. I'm tired of throwing away money. This number makes me want to vomit. I'm going to get in and own a home. So they bought a home at $550,000. The total mortgage payments they would have paid is $306,000, but $78,000 of that goes towards principal. Principal is like a forced form of savings account. It's like money that comes back to you because you're paying down that loan balance. So at the end of 10 years, you really paid $228,000 versus $303,000. But get this, at the end of 10 years, the home that you bought for $550,000, you could now sell for $895,000 because of home appreciation. And this is with a very conservative number at 5%. So 5% home appreciation at the end of 10 years would have your asset appreciate to $895,000. If you sold that house and you didn't pay any extra towards principal, you sold it for $895,000, your loan balance was $371,000, you would walk away with $524,000 in profit. That's $500,000. Or you could pay over $250,000 in rent and you're throwing it away because you're waiting for the market to settle down, or you're waiting until rates get back to 2.875. Don't wait. If they go down, we can refinance you with 0 out of pocket. We offer all of our Nerd Club alums 0 out of pocket refinances, and we can lower your interest rate and keep you in the same term. But stop thinking that you can time the market. Can't time the stock market. You can't time the housing market. But if the alternative is renting, I can promise you, you're not doing any favors for yourself. So the sooner you can get into being a homeowner, the better. If you guys have any questions, let me know. You know how to find me at The Mortgage Nerd on all social media, or go to my website. I would love to help you either refinance, buy, run numbers with renting versus owning. And if you're a real estate agent, we do these things to help your business and help provide you the data so that your consumers stay informed. Take care until next month. Bye.